Imagine yourself in the vibrant heart of Rome, walking among toga-clad senators and disciplined legions, where whispered decisions in a marble hall shaped the fate of the world. You will discover every hidden intrigue, every silent pact, and every epic victory that elevated the Julio-Claudian Dynasty as the guardians of the Roman Empire. But how many betrayals lay buried beneath purple silk cloaks? How many heirs saw their dreams stained by conspiracies, privations, and premature deaths? And how much instability lurked behind the gleam of crowns and the laurels of triumph? In this video, I unveil the behind-the-scenes of this legendary lineage. From Augustus's cautious cunning to Nero's eruptions of madness, through family ambitions, poisonings, and twists that forever changed the face of Rome. Prepare yourself for an emotional, revealing journey through the history of the West's first great empire. But before we dive into these stories and curiosities of the Roman Empire, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and hit the bell. That way, you won't miss any of our videos filled with secrets and surprises about ancient Rome. A simple act of abdication transformed the Republic into a millennia-lasting empire. And that secret begins now. The rise of Augustus and the founding of the empire, after decades of civil wars that left Rome exhausted and divided. Following the conflicts among Caesar, Pompey, and Brutus, Octavian, Augustus's nephew and Julius Caesar's adopted son, took a masterful stance on January 13th, 27 BC, by relinquishing all extraordinary powers granted by popular and senatorial decree. He restored the appearance of a republic, a political ploy that earned him the title princeps, bestowed by the Senate itself. While feigning modesty, he consolidated the key provinces under his command: Gaul, Hispania, Egypt, Cyprus, and Syria, backed by over 20 legions trained to defend imperial unity. This military structure, combined with an efficient tax system and the cultural patronage of poet Virgil and architect Agrippa, cemented the Pax Romana, inaugurating over 2 centuries of stability. Octavian also restored the Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill and assumed the office of Pontifex Maximus, reinforcing his religious and political authority. He invested in infrastructure, aqueducts, roads, the Arapazes, and the mausoleum of Augustus. Today, the ruins of these monuments still bear witness to his integrative vision and his model of government. The Principate, a blend of republic and disguised monarchy, this strategic duality, where real power hid behind the trappings of republican tradition, laid the foundations for an empire that would influence modern administration and inspire rulers for millennia. After his death in 14 AD, he was formally deified as Divus Augustus, solidifying his legend. The shadow of Augustus's deification raised an inevitable question: who would have the strength to succeed him and uphold his legacy? The succession challenge, adoptions and loss. From the earliest years of the Principate, Augustus recognized that mortality's fragility prevented the birth of legitimate heirs. Adoption, a custom entrenched in Rome, became his lifeline. In 37 BC, he adopted Marcellus, his beloved nephew and commander, inaugurating a political model where blood ties gave way to strategic decisions. Marcellus appeared on commemorative coins, led military campaigns, and paraded in public ceremonies, only to succumb at age 21 to typhoid fever, according to Tacitus. Devastated, the emperor turned to Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, childhood friend, engineer, architect, and naval hero at Actium. In 23 BC, he formalized Agrippa's adoption, sealing a military-cultural alliance. Agrippa governed vital provinces, sponsored theaters and baths, and fathered grandsons Gaius and Lucius Caesar. Yet Gaius died of a respiratory illness, and Lucius of a kidney infection, reigniting the succession drama and the urgent search for a surviving heir. In 4 AD, With no living descendants, Augustus adopted Tiberius, his stepson born in Pisorum, celebrated for his ironclad discipline of the Germanic legions. Despite aristocratic protests, the Senate ratified the adoption in 2 AD, designating Tiberius as the formal heir. Each adoption, each premature death, exposed the tension between family tradition and Roman realpolitik. Heirs are not born merely in royal cradles, but crafted through meticulous strategies to preserve imperial unity. This is the bitter cost of succession, a legacy shaped by ambition and imperial tragedy. Tiberius, shaped by the absence and deaths of 3 heirs, would have to prove he was born to rule, not merely to inherit. Tiberius's Consolidation and Germanicus's shadow Tiberius, austere and disciplined, assumed Rome's destiny when he acquired tribunician power in 19 BC. But his contrast with nephew Germanicus was never more striking. While Tiberius organized the first census, overhauled taxes, and restructured provinces, Germanicus led Germanic campaigns, avenging Teutoburg and recapturing fortresses. In Cologne, recent excavations uncovered legionary standards and 20th century inscriptions confirming Tiberius's military discipline beyond dispute. Stone inscriptions in Neuss and Xanten attest to the provincial reorganization spearheaded by Tiberius, highlighting his administrative vision. Under Tiberius's command, strategic roads were built and fortresses erected, remnants still visible in archaeological sites. Germanicus, meanwhile, became a popular icon. In 12 BC, he paraded a triumph, received a votive arch, and had his portrait minted on coins still exhibited in museums. Behind palace walls, Tacitus records rumors of Tiberius's envy of Germanicus's acclaim. Octavian, ever cautious, doled out honors to maintain balance. Though equal in authority to Augustus, Tiberius' new titles alone could not secure legionary loyalty. This discreet rivalry between administrative rigor and military charisma grew unsustainable. A hero's shadow loomed over the prince, testing whether discipline could prevail against the troops' fervor. In the duel of order versus enthusiasm, the empire would reveal which virtue would uphold its next ruler. Germanicus, the beloved hero, and his suspicious death general Germanicus, Augustus's favored nephew and admired by the legions, distinguished himself in campaigns against Germanic tribes between 16 and 13 BC, restoring Rome's honor after Teutoburg and recapturing fortresses along the Rhine. Modern excavations confirm legionary inscriptions and standards celebrating his victories, proving his military prestige beyond question. In 17 AD, sent to Egypt to relieve a severe grain shortage, Germanicus contracted a fever in Alexandria. Chronicles by Tacitus and Byzantine papyri hint at poisoning by political rivals, possibly orchestrated by the Praetorian prefect Sejanus. 20th century papyrus fragments from Oxyrhynchus mention his critical condition, fueling doubts over natural causes. When he died in 19 AD at Antioch, a national mourning ensued. Crowds followed his ashes to Augustus's mausoleum as legionaries raised standards in tribute. Suetonius reports the Senate falling silent, fearful of a military backlash over the loss of their beloved commander. Germanicus's death exposed the rift between legionary power and senatorial authority. While the army grieved its leader, Tiberius accelerated his courtly entrenchment, revealing that formal command alone could not win hearts. The posthumous cult of Germanicus, fostered by veterans and family, gained near-divine status, echoing today in regional commemorations throughout former Germania. This loss reverberated through every pillar of Roman power. A hero fell, and the empire felt its own pulse falter. Caligula's rise and reign of chaos in 37 AD, Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, known as Caligula, succeeded Tiberius, promising benevolence. he raised praetorian pay, sponsored chariot races, and cut taxes. His youthful charm captivated Senate and populace alike, rekindling hopes of a golden age in Rome. Yet after a serious illness, Suetonius reports he proclaimed himself divine, claiming messages from Jupiter. His megalomaniac projects included a 3-mile floating bridge across the Bay of Naples, staged naval battles on Lake Nemi, and naming his horse Incitatus, a consul in honor. Recent coin finds in Rome bear his effigy, confirming his self-aggrandizement. Squandering the imperial treasury and ordering swift executions of senators without trial eroded elite trust. Senate investigations and paid informers circulated fabricated conspiracies, fueling terror. The Praetorian Guard, long his privileged beneficiaries, felt betrayed by his insane whims. Cassius Dio and surviving inscriptions depict a cornered Senate powerless to counter imperial whims. In January 41st AD, a plot by senior Praetorians culminated in Caligula's assassination on the Palatine. His body was dragged through the streets in a cathartic display of popular fury and relief at the abrupt end of an excess-ridden reign. Have you ever wondered how a ruler's brilliance can fade into tyranny? Leave a like now to help us keep bringing you these stories. In the chaos that followed, an unlikely leader would rise from the ashes to restore order. Claudius. The unlikely Emperor Claudius, born in Lugdunum in 10 BC, was regarded as modest and tongue-tied. In January 41st AD, Praetorians proclaimed him emperor after Caligula's assassination. Unexpectedly vested with power, he embraced a conciliatory approach. He retained the Julio-Claudian name and pledged to restore Senate authority. Swiftly, he advanced public works, completing the Aqua Claudia and Annio Novus aqueducts, opened in 52 AD, whose arches still channel water to modern Rome. In 43 AD, he orchestrated the invasion of Britain under Aulus Plautius, transforming it into an imperial province. Surviving milestone markers in former colonial towns confirm his conquest. Claudius overhauled the judiciary, restructured provinces, and established direct appeals to the emperor. He launched the first formal census, recorded in the Fasti Ostienses, which tallied around 6 million citizens, refining taxation and redistributing territories. Epigraphs from the theatre of Marcellus celebrate his patronage of arts and public spectacles. Yet, court intrigues simmered. In 48 AD, Messalina's conspiracy with Gaius Silius to usurp the throne led to her summary execution. Shortly after, Claudius wed Agrippina, his niece and Germanicus's granddaughter, securing Nero's adoption and the line of succession. Claudius's reign restored administrative and military stability, but revealed dynastic vulnerabilities, setting the stage for future ambitions. Hooked by Claudius's quiet competence, a new power-hungry force was already waiting in the wings. Agrippina and the manipulation of the throne for Nero. Agrippina, daughter of Germanicus, married Claudius in 49 AD. Following Messalina's fall, she forged alliances with senators and Sejanus, eliminating rivals and leveraging the emperor's trust to advance her ambitions. Agrippina rebuilt Ostia's harbor to secure Rome's grain supply, as a contemporary inscription attests. She also renovated public baths, expanding her administrative influence. At her official elevation, she received the title Augusta, gaining imperial privileges. She then persuaded Claudius to adopt her 6-year-old son Nero, eclipsing Britannicus, Claudius's rightful heir. Pompey inscriptions refer to the adoption decree that placed Nero in the line of succession. Under tutors Seneca and Burrus, Nero received refined literary and military education, while Agrippina bribed the Praetorian Guard with generous bonuses to secure their loyalty. She orchestrated public events to project her image as protective mother, undermining Britannicus's standing. In October 54 AD, during a palace banquet, Nero ordered Agrippina's death, completing the matriarchal scheme to cement his power. Ancient reports cite poisoned mushrooms as the lethal weapon. Agrippina's political engineering propelled Nero to the throne, but planted the seeds of a paranoia-fueled, unscrupulous tyranny. Against Agrippina's shadow emerges an emperor forged. In ambition, her legacy would become his deadliest weapon. Nero. From charismatic youth to feared Tyrantin, his first 5 years, Nero balanced administrative reforms with grand spectacles. He sponsored poets like Seneca and Lucan, granted generous bonuses to the Praetorian Guard, and restored budget surpluses, returning some legislative power to the Senate. His youthful charm and love of the arts enthralled plebeians and nobles alike, who hailed him as the Principate's rejuvenator. However, in 59 AD, the sudden death of Britannicus, whether accident or foul play, and the conspiracy that led to Agrippina's murder, marked his moral descent. Driven by paranoia, Nero executed his former mentor Seneca under charges of treason and had relatives and suspected allies beheaded. Suetonius describes his palaces, lavishly adorned with Greek marble and bronze statues, while Rome's streets languished in inequality. The empire, once a cradle of cultural abundance, became a stage for self-promotion. Colossal imperial statues rose in the forums, and silver and gold coins bore his godlike portrait. Meanwhile, popular discontent grew. Pompey graffiti inscribed anonymous protests against oppressive taxes, and public trust evaporated, foreshadowing the turmoil ahead. The fall of a supreme artist gave way to the rise of a tyrant, and Rome was headed toward the day when fire would consume its glory. The Great Fire of Rome and the start of persecution. In July 64 AD, a fire raged through Rome for 6 days, destroying entire districts and consuming palaces. Tacitus recounts flames driven by fierce winds and wooden structures, while modern, remote-sensing surveys detected burn layers in areas once thought untouched, confirming the disaster's vast, dramatic scale. Amid the ashes, rumors spread. Nero played his lyre as the city burned. Whether fact or senatorial slander, his reputation corroded. To deflect blame, he accused Christians. Crowds of believers were arrested, tortured in public spectacles, and crucified along the Appian Way, initiating the first imperial persecution. Reconstruction was financed by heavy taxes on the poorest. The Edictum de Aedificiis banned narrow streets and tall buildings, but the exorbitant cost of rebuilding sparked revolt. Pompeian graffiti revealed popular outrage at fiscal exploitation. The exhausted, fearful Senate began plotting, laying groundwork for Piso's conspiracy. This episode inaugurated a cycle of fear that shattered confidence in Nero, leaving him increasingly isolated. The fire that consumed Rome heralded a new era of political conflict. The flames of 64 AD did not just scorch buildings, they ignited the ember of an emperor's lost credibility. The fall of Nero and the end of the Julio-Claudian Dynasty in 68 AD, abandoned by the Praetorian Guard and the nobility, Nero sought to flee but found Rome's gates closed. Taking refuge in a suburban villa, he learned his guard had turned against him. On June 9th, with no escape, he cried out his final words, "Qualis artifex pereo," mourning the demise of a celebrated artist. Excavations at the Villa Poppaea in Torre Annunziata have uncovered pottery shards that evoke his last refuge. The Roman Senate, eager to erase the tyrant's memory, decreed a damnatio memoriae, removing his name and images, and formally declared the Julio-Claudian Dynasty extinct. Thus began the turbulent year of the four emperors, as Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and finally Vespasian vied for power, plunging Rome into civil war. Yet the legacy of the dynasty that founded the empire endures. Aqueducts still carry water, roads still span continents, and laws still influence modern jurisprudence. The ruins of the Forum, the Colosseum, and the Pantheon remind the world of an empire forged in blood and ambition, and of its remarkable and fragile, enduring influence. If you enjoyed this journey through time and want more fascinating stories, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video on ancient Rome and its grand empire.